The phrase, "the dua Allah hates," immediately stirs a believer's heart with curiosity and even fear, because how can there be a prayer that Allah, the most merciful, the all-knowing, would dislike? Allah encourages his servants to call upon him day and night, for he says in the Qur'an, "Call upon me, I will respond to you." 40:60. So how then can there be a dua that is not beloved to him? The truth is that while Allah loves when his servants turn to him sincerely, there are certain types of supplications born out of arrogance, injustice, or ignorance that are displeasing to him. To understand this, we must reflect on the nature of dua, the role of the believer's mindset, and the spiritual lessons embedded in the Qur'an and Sunnah. Dua is not merely words, it is a reflection of the heart. It reveals what we desire, what we prioritize, and what mindset we carry in relation to Allah and his creation. When dua is done with sincerity, humility, and submission, it becomes one of the greatest acts of worship. But when it is made with arrogance, selfishness, or transgression, it ceases to be worship and becomes something Allah hates. The Prophet Muhammad warned against such supplications, and the Qur'an itself makes it clear that not all prayers are equal in the sight of Allah. One of the forms of dua that Allah hates is when a person makes dua for harm to others unjustly. Islam is a religion of justice and mercy, and Allah does not love oppression. When a person supplicates for someone to be destroyed, to lose their wealth, or to suffer without cause or wrongdoing, such a dua is hated by Allah because it reflects a heart poisoned by hatred, envy, or arrogance. The Prophet said, "Do not supplicate against yourselves, do not supplicate against your children, and do not supplicate against your wealth, lest you coincide with an hour in which Allah grants requests and your supplication be answered." Muslim. This shows that dua made with anger or heedlessness, asking for harm even upon one's own self, is a type of dua Allah dislikes. Another type of dua that Allah hates is when it reflects ingratitude or despair. Allah despises when a servant calls upon him with hopelessness, as though Allah will not respond, or when one demands in a way that reflects entitlement rather than humility. The Quran reminds us, indeed, no one despairs of relief from Allah except the disbelieving people. 12:87. Dua should be made with conviction, as the Prophet said, "Call upon Allah while being certain of being answered." Tirmidhi. When a person supplicates with words of hopelessness, "O Allah, you will never forgive me," or "O Allah, you will never help me," this type of dua is hated by Allah because it reflects a lack of faith in his mercy and power. The scholars also explain that Allah hates dua that involves sin or the breaking of ties. The Prophet clearly said, "There is no Muslim who makes a dua in which there is no sin or cutting off of family ties, except that Allah gives him one of three things. Either he hastens the response, or he stores it for him in the hereafter, or he averts from him an evil of similar measure." Ahmad. This means that a dua that asks Allah to enable sin, such as asking him to help one in oppression, or to gain haram wealth, or to succeed in actions that displease him, is a dua Allah hates. Similarly, a dua that calls for breaking ties of kinship, asking Allah to separate brothers, sisters, parents, or family without cause, is a supplication rooted in corruption, and Allah does not love corruption. Equally, Allah hates dua that comes from a heedless heart. The Prophet said, "Know that Allah does not answer a supplication from a heedless heart." Tirmidhi. This refers to a person who utters supplications mechanically without sincerity, attention, or presence of heart. Such dua is disliked because it becomes empty words without spirit, and Allah commands us to call upon Him with humility and sincerity. A dua from a distracted heart, muttered out of habit without meaning, is not only ineffective but displeasing, because it strips dua of its essence as a living connection between servant and Lord. Another angle of the dua Allah hates is when a person prays for something that contradicts wisdom or divine decree. For example, making dua to live forever in this world, or asking to escape death completely, is disliked because it contradicts the natural order Allah has decreed. Similarly, praying for the impossible in a way that reflects ignorance of Allah's wisdom, such as asking for prophethood after the finality of Muhammad, or asking to alter the laws Allah has set, reflects arrogance rather than humility. Such duas are hated because they oppose divine wisdom. At the same time, Allah dislikes dua that is selfish in nature, disconnected from the well-being of others. Islam teaches believers to make dua not just for themselves, but for their families, communities, and the ummah at large. When a believer makes dua only for personal gain while ignoring the struggles of others, it reflects a narrow heart. The Prophet said that the dua a Muslim makes for his brother in his absence is accepted, and an angel responds, Ameen, and for you the same. Therefore, a dua rooted in selfishness and neglect of others is not beloved to Allah, for the spirit of Islam is collective mercy. One of the most dangerous types of dua Allah hates is when a person prays for punishment or destruction of themselves out of despair. Sometimes, in moments of anger or weakness, a person may say, O Allah, take my soul, or O Allah, curse me. Such words are heavy and disliked because they come from impatience with Allah's decree. The Prophet warned against this, reminding that no believer should wish for death due to hardship, but rather should ask Allah for relief and patience. Such supplications are rooted in despair, and despair is hated by Allah. Reflecting on these teachings, it becomes clear that dua Allah hates is not about the act of supplication itself, but the spirit behind it. Allah loves when His servant turns to Him, but He hates when that turning is poisoned by arrogance, injustice, despair, heedlessness, or selfishness. Dua should be an act of humility, a recognition of our weakness and Allah's strength, our ignorance and Allah's knowledge, our sins and Allah's forgiveness. When dua is corrupted, it becomes something displeasing to Allah. The mindset of the believer must always be rooted in hope, humility, and sincerity. When making dua, a Muslim should align their heart with the qualities Allah loves: gratitude, patience, mercy, and justice. Even when asking for protection from enemies or relief from oppressors, one should seek justice rather than vengeance, guidance rather than destruction. This reflects the prophetic mindset, for even when faced with the worst enemies, the Prophet often prayed for their guidance rather than their punishment. The lesson from the dua Allah hates is ultimately about self-reflection. What does my dua reveal about my heart? Do I call upon Allah with humility and gratitude, or do I call upon Him with arrogance and entitlement? Do I seek mercy for myself, but deny it for others? Do I despair of Allah's help, or do I hold firm to His promise that He is near and answers the call of the caller? These questions transform dua from mere words into a journey of purification. Believers are encouraged to avoid the types of dua Allah hates, and instead strive to embody the dua Allah loves, those made with sincerity, patience, and gratitude. Dua for forgiveness, for guidance, for strength in trials, for unity of family and community, for success in lawful endeavors, and for salvation in the hereafter. These are supplications Allah loves and responds to. At its heart, dua is the essence of worship because it shows dependence on Allah. When done with humility, it is beloved. When corrupted by arrogance, injustice, or despair, it becomes the dua Allah hates.